You know, with just the state of how depressing and stressful everything is in the world right now, you gotta remember to take some time for yourself and do the things that truly make you happy. For instance, one thing for me is making myself gin martinis, and actually Julia Child credited her longevity to drinking plenty of gin, so I'm doing the right thing.
Well, since the world is ending, it's fine. We're gonna be fine. Everything's been great these past 7 months. All I can do is just try to remain positive. What helps me to remain positive are doing the things that bring me just complete immense joy. And it got me thinking about how I got involved in cooking in the first place. And it was to, you know, to uplift me, and it became a distraction from real life and stresses and anxiety. I credit all of my success to one person only, and that's Julia Child. And this book really just changed my life and opened the doors to many opportunities and jobs. And I work full-time as a baker for the past 10 years almost in New York City. And this book was a gift to me from my mom about 11 years ago. So I thought I'd really like to have just a low-key night. It's Sunday night. We're just, you know, we want to do something to uplift us a little bit. And, you know, I haven't been sleeping well lately because sleep is overrated, but you know what's not overrated is chocolate cake. And specifically, we are making Reine De Saba. I do not speak French, I'm sorry. Reine De Saba translates into chocolate almond cake. And I have never made this before. I thought it would be fun to kind of do it together and go through the cookbook. So I'm gonna go through the list of ingredients. I'm not gonna give you the measurements right now. I'll give it to you as I'm going along, as I'm reading the cookbook. But basically what you need for this recipe is just some cake flour. And I use Swan's Down brand. You can get that anywhere. You'll need some almond meal because this is a chocolate almond cake. I just get it from Trader Joe's. You can get it anywhere, really. Granulated sugar. You'll need some chocolate. It says to use semi-sweet, but I use a combination of bitter chocolate, which is unsweetened chocolate, with the semi-sweet because it creates just a lovely freaking combination of flavors. You will need some eggs. We're gonna crack egg yolks and egg whites separately. You'll see, it's gonna be magical. You'll need some unsalted butter that is softened at room temperature because we're gonna cream it with the sugar. You're gonna need some almond extract, vanilla extract, a little cream of tartar, some salt, some strong coffee. This is just some coffee I had in my French press all day that I brewed earlier. Just some strong coffee or some rum. It doesn't matter, you can use either or. And you will need a cake pan. You should have an 8-inch cake pan. That's what the recipe calls for. But I only have a 9-inch, so that's fine. It's gonna work just fine. But that just means the cake is just gonna come out a little more just flatter. But whatever, it's fine. It's a low-key night. We're gonna roll with the punches and let's get started. I have got the oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit so that it is ready. So first thing we have to do is prepare our pan, and the recipe calls for the pan to be buttered. So that's what we're doing. We're not using spray, we're using good old butter. Just take about a tablespoon of butter, get your hands all dirty, messy and sticky. Roll it all around. And I cut out a little piece of parchment paper to fit, because that's very important. It helps to not stick. And then take even some more butter. Butter that. Our pan is buttered, and it also calls to be floured. This really, this is like an old school kind of trick that really helps cakes to rise well and to not stick. So I put a little bit of that cake flour in there. Put my flour in there in the cake pan, and I'm tapping the pan and making sure it's covering all the edges. Just roll it around, and then it's coated like that. And then you want to knock out the excess flour. You don't need all that. So I just have a little plate beside me, knock it out, or if you're by a garbage can, just do that. All right, so the pan is prepared, and it says to make sure that your chocolate has melted. So this is about a half a cup of chocolate. And then it says we need to add some coffee, about 2 tablespoons. This gives just, oh wow, okay. I'm gonna add just a little bit more because 2 tablespoons in there. And we're just gonna set that aside. We don't need that right now, because now we're gonna focus on creaming the butter and the sugar. I have a really, fancy KitchenAid stand mixer. I added my butter, and then it calls for 2/3 cup of granulated sugar. That's a little bit more, but that's okay. You know, we're not being very fancy and super precise here. This is a low-key night. I just wanted to make some cake with you guys, all right? So now we have to work on separating our eggs, our egg whites from our egg yolks. We're gonna use all of them. We just have to make sure that they're separated. So I take my egg, crack it once on the counter. Just be very careful. Actually get rid of the shell, and then do it in my hand. Just kind of separate the egg white from the egg yolk. Put it in a separate bowl. The butter and the sugar has been properly creamed. We're gonna add our 3 egg yolks right in there. Increase that speed a little bit. I'm just gonna stop it. Every time I use my machine, I always stop it halfway through and really just give it a good mix and scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl. Alright guys, now I'm going to add in the almond extract. It calls for about a 1/4 teaspoon. Just be very careful because it's really strong. This doesn't call for any vanilla extract, but I am just going to add just a little 1/2 teaspoon because I know it's going to make it taste that much more amazing. Turn that off. That's what your mixture should look like, nice and creamy and light and fluffy. I'm actually gonna transfer this mixture into a separate bowl, so I got a bowl right beside me. Got my cream butter and sugar and my extracts. You've really gotta make certain, whichever bowl that you use to whip up your egg whites, you gotta make sure there's no traces of oil residue in there. So I'm gonna go to the sink and thoroughly clean this out, and I'll be right back. The bowl has been thoroughly washed and clean, free of any oil residue. Now I am adding the whisk attachment because we are gonna whip up our egg whites. So I got the egg whites in this bowl from before. I add it in. All right, we're really gonna turn this sucker up. So I got some salt, just about a pinch, about a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. It's really, really simple. So you see how they start to kind of, they're foaming up. This is the beginning. And you want to turn that sucker on high. And these want to double, triple in volume, but we don't want to over whip them because they will lose their sheen. We do not want that. We want them to be stiff and shiny peaks. So in the meantime, I'm gonna add that little pinch of salt right in. You always gotta add some salt, especially when you're making a chocolate cake. It really helps bring out the flavor. And to that, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of granulated sugar. This helps also. Let's see where we are. I'm gonna take this off actually. Take out the bowl. And the way to tell if you have stiff peaks, just stick it down, turn it upside down. You see how it's standing up? If you want to be a little dramatic, turn it upside down. It's there, it stays. That's what it should look like. Beautiful, shiny, stiff peaks. So I have my melted chocolate here. So we have to add this to our butter and sugar mixture. So just like so. I actually put the butter and sugar mixture into another bowl that was bigger. So I added the chocolate mixture to the egg and the sugar. And I am just incorporating that really quickly. No big deal, see? Amazing. And now it says we have to add 1/3 cup of almond meal. Oh, it smells so good. I always have to smell everything. I'm such a weirdo. We're just gonna incorporate that because this is a chocolate almond cake after all. That's all mixed in. I'm gonna measure out my flour because we're about to use it. So I'm gonna need a half of a cup of flour. Now I have the egg whites. We're gonna add in just quarter of the filling, which is basically just that, just nothing. Just a little bit, just to help lighten it up. Oh my God, it smells so good, that almond extract. Wow, this is gonna be freaking amazing. And there you go, kind of lightens it up. Here's how it goes. Take this away. We're gonna pour that chocolate filling right into the remainder of those egg whites. Try to scrape out as much as you can. This is, oh, I can't even begin to describe how delicious this smells. Your biggest rubber spatula that you own, get in there, you plunk in the center, and you start folding, which means you just get in the center of that batter and you rotate. Just try to get it incorporated without deflating the egg whites too much. That's almost fully incorporated. Now we add in, I'm just gonna add it in all at once, the half a cup of the cake flour, folding in as you sift. I'll move that out of the way. So you sift a little, and you're folding and sift. I'm not doing a very good job at this demonstrating. Sifted. Fold. Now this cake is amazing because it's all based on egg powder. There's no, as you notice, there's no leaveners like baking soda and baking powder. Just fold that in until you don't see any more of those white speckles, of those white flour clumps. And that happens fast. There we go. Okay, you really don't want to overmix at all. You never want to overmix, especially with the cake batter. So take your prepared pan. And like I said, this is not the 8-inch pan that it calls for. This is a 9-inch, but we're gonna just roll with it. It's gonna be great. I have a little offset spatula and or a butter knife, and I try to get as much batter as I possibly can off the spatula. It always seems to stick. And then, you know, just whatever you have, just smooth it out as best as you can. Make sure it is all leveled. Go for it, okay? Anytime that I make a cake, I always just tap, tap. That knocks out any air bubbles, it knocks out any stuff like that, and it levels it out. So now we're gonna place this into our preheated 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes. So you actually want the cake to be just a little bit gooey in the center, because that's why this cake requires no filling, because it's slightly, just a little bit underdone, like that kind of brownie texture where it's a little crumbly in the center, and that's exactly what we want. So let's put it in the oven. We'll see it in 25 minutes. Okay, so I literally just took this hot cake out of the oven. It smells like a brownie, and it looks like it too. And you know when it's done, when you just, here, you gotta get used to using your hands when you're baking. You press on it and it's springing back on me. But I know it's not overcooked because it does have a little, it has a little, you know, indentation when you press into it, but it does give a bit. That's how you know when your cake is done. And now we have to let this cool completely on a wire rack. In the meantime, we are gonna make the chocolate glaze icing for this wonderful cake, which requires just basically 3 ingredients. That is semi-sweet chocolate chips, a stick of butter, and a couple tablespoons of that strong coffee or rum. So I have my semi-sweet chocolate chips in here, about 4 ounces, and I'm gonna melt that in the microwave, stirring in 30-second intervals. Every 30 seconds I'll take it out and stir it just to make sure it's not seizing up. So I have my chocolate melted to a lovely consistency, see? Nice and shiny and melty. I'm gonna add those couple of tablespoons of coffee. And that's about all that was left over in my French press. And I'm glad I have that. I'm actually gonna grab a whisk. Just set this aside. This is like a really simple sounding glaze. Glazy, not so much a buttercream, because this is kind of a strange way of doing it to me. So I'm gonna add a tablespoon of that softened butter, 1 tablespoon at a time. This is gonna become, I imagine, really shiny and luscious and delicious because it's called a glaze. It's not called a frosting. And the glaze is different from a frosting. It's much more runny. I just added in my last tablespoon of butter. That was pretty much the whole stick. Because it's French food, guys. French food, butter. Just add the butter. Whisk it in, and you see how it's just like shiny and luscious, and that looks like a glaze. It's not exactly a frosting because it's a little too runny to be a frosting. That is what a glaze looks like. I'm gonna bring my cake pan towards me. That's my spatula, get that out of the way. And this has been cooling for about 10 minutes. So take a knife, or I have my little offset spatula right here. Just gonna run around the edges. It should come out easily because we buttered the heck out of this thing and we floured it. But we always do this just for safe measure, because why not? And then ever so carefully, bravely turn it upside down and give it a little bit of a tap tap. Ah, look at that. Peel off that. And then if you want to, bravely turn it upside down. Oh, it kind of broke a little bit because it's very warm, but it's really not a big deal. I'm gonna let this cool just a little tiny bit before I put the glaze on. Don't want to put it on while it's still piping hot because it's gonna just not stick to it at all. So I'm gonna let it cool for a few more minutes, and then we will proceed to putting the glaze on and the almonds. So my cake has been cooling for about an hour now, and now I'm gonna glaze it. Got my gorgeous chocolate and buttery glaze mixture. And I just want to note that I've had this on a wire rack, and I put that over a piece of parchment paper so it catches any of the mess that falls down. So here's how it goes. Just gonna pour that on top. Oh my gosh, it looks so nice. The satisfying sight, just chocolate on top of chocolate. Do the best I can to spread it out. And you do want the chocolate to dribble down. Make sure it totally coats it. I'll actually rotate it for you. You want it to dribble down the sides. Because we are going to add our almonds to it. A bit more in here. I don't want to waste any of this. This is so good. Wow. How lovely is that? Here we go. I think everything looks pretty much nice. Oh, there's a little, just do that. Everything looks nicely coated. Gorgeous. And now we want to put the almonds on while the cake is still sticky before it sets. So traditionally you would use some really nice looking sliced almonds. My grocery store didn't have any, so I'm not gonna fret. I found some just regular blanched almonds whole. I actually chopped them up in my food processor a bit, and I'm just gonna go all around the sides, all around that very edge of the cake. Traditionally, you would put this on that side, but the cake didn't rise up as much as I'd like because we baked this in a bigger pan in the 9-inch instead of the 8. So just all around the sides, and then it still looks really nice once you do that. There you have it. Now we're gonna let this just set up just a little bit before I cut into it, just so the chocolate's not oozing out everywhere. I'll see you back in a minute. All right guys, so the cake is set. It is beautiful. I've actually put it in the fridge for about 15 minutes just so the glaze could set up, and we are ready to slice and serve. And I am just beyond excited for this. I'm gonna cut myself a nice big slice. Ooh. That nice, it's a beautiful, just lovely, rich, a thin cake with almonds and chocolate. This just gets me emotional, honestly. Just nothing better than French food. I know this is going to be absolutely incredible. It's just not fair. This is not, bye. I actually can't handle how good this is. Wow. I'm sorry. I don't even want to speak. Obviously, a classic for a number of reasons, but mainly being that it is so incredibly delicious. It is not overly sweet whatsoever. The almond comes through. It is just so incredibly lovely, and I cannot say enough words. I actually can't even speak the words. So this was obviously a good idea to do tonight. This definitely lifted me up. I needed this. We all need some cake in our lives, especially right now because 2020, and just I hope you enjoyed spending a little bit of time with me tonight. I certainly enjoyed making this amazing recipe from Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Julia Child is one of my biggest, if not the biggest, inspiration for my baking and my cooking and just my career. So thank you, Julia. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Honestly, we all just need to eat chocolate cake and just shut up. So see you guys next time. Take care. Oh my god. Honestly, why?